Testing, testing.
Testing. That's not.
Yeah, I'm good.
Testing, testing.
No, sir.
Huh?
No, sir.
Folks, it's after 4 o'clock. Is this working? Can you hear me? I can't hear me.
Madam Chair is calling the meeting to order.
Thank you, because I don't hear myself. I'm sorry. Folks, it's after 4 o'clock and we've got a long meeting with the 6 o'clock council meeting. So if we could, thank you very much, call the meeting to order. This is the Legal Committee of Thursday, November 18th. Like I say, it's a little after 4. Could we have a roll call, please?
Counselor Stubbs,
Here.
Counselor Lopez, Counselor Perry,
Here.
Counselor Foster.
Present.
Madam, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. We have the minutes from the November 4th no, that was a special. Or was it a regular? It was a special legal committee attached. Could I have a motion on those minutes?
I see no corrections that need to be made. Would you like it done through motion?
No, I prefer not, but.
Okay, yeah, I don't see anything that needs to be changed.
Okay, then the minutes from the November 4th legal committee meeting will stand approved as written. Approval of the agenda, which I should have done first, forgive me. Anyone?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. We will go in the order of the agenda. Our first regular item is the leases. At the Air Center, we actually have 7 of them. Jenna, hi.
Just talk loud. The first lease that we'll be looking at is Air Sales lease. Oh, I'm not supposed to do this to you. Boy. Bear with me. This will all be new to me.
Sure.
So.
No, that's okay.
Is it possible to turn her? I have brand new hearing aids on and I'm trying to get used to them and it's very
Is that
difficult
better?
to hear.
If I,
I'm
it's hard
sorry.
to hear me.
It's my fault, not yours, I'm sure.
First, I would
That's
like
good.
to amend the lease dates to begin January 1, 2022, just because we won't get these to council, obviously. Our first lease is for Air Sale Hangar 58. Consider recommendation for the approval to authorize Air Sale to enter the lease for hangar number 58 and related space for... It's a 1-year lease with 5 years commencing with the renewals in them. And I apologize for this too. These are Steve's leases and I'm reading them as I go. The last lease ran from 2016 to 2017 and it's been in holdover since. So we're anxious to bring this through legal and get it to council for approval. Air Sale is finally come to an agreement with us on negotiation. Their current rent is $2,896.19 for Hangar 58, and we'll be moving to a progression of rent from year 1. That was their monthly rent. Their monthly rent going forward for year 1 will be $6,369.43. Year 2, $9,012.35, and then in year 3, 4, and 5, it will increase to $11,655.26, which is the rate we're working towards getting everybody up to CPI that's for the Air Center. This lease was initially a combined lease with Hangar 66, 58, and Building 73. We're separating the leases intentionally just to clean them up so that we don't have a termination of multiple leases when the client decides when they're ready to leave. And then also we can address them one at a time. I'll stand for questions if anybody has any.
Thank you. Yes, Counselor Perry.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So there won't be, there's no need at this point to do the CPI or anything because we have the increases as given here. I just want to make sure I understand that.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Madam Chair, I say we vote on it before anybody changes their mind.
Counselor Foster, did you have?
Well, the only problem I have, so years 4 and 5, they stay stagnant, correct?
Yes.
So we're saying, and that's my problem, is down the road. I like it, and I'm glad we're moving it up. But here, if CPI does change on us as it's pushed and may be doing, we may be behind the 8 ball in 4 and 5. But I still think we'll be starting from a better playing field.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm okay with it because of that. But I just think that understanding that we get them up to a quasi market rate and then we stop for 2 years is going to slow us down a little bit. It's 3 steps forward and I guess just 1 step back. But I do like the initial, so I'm okay with it.
Did you say the third year would be at market rate? Of course, we don't know what it'll be in 3 years either.
Yep, that is correct. Year 3 is where we hit $4.41 a square foot.
41. But I mean, that's market rate today.
Correct.
We don't know. But, okay.
That could go either way for us.
Exactly. I do have a question, and I don't know that I appreciate not including the whole lease because it's very redundant to do so. But this is proposed for 5 years, and then it says the lease shall renew for 5 additional 1-year periods. Is that going to come to council, or is that going to be? This makes it sound like it's automatic after 5 years.
Yes, Counselor. If the council approves the lease with
the 5 year.
With additional renewals built into it, you've approved the renewals, and then it becomes a matter of discretion with staff whether or not to exercise those renewals.
So
Again,
it may
you could,
or may not come back to council until 25 years.
well, no, they're 5 additional 1-year periods, so it would go up to 10
5,
years.
1 year, 10. Okay,
But
sorry.
you can always put into these agreements that renewal shall be contingent upon approval of the governing body if you like.
I may not be alive then, but I'm just thinking that it's probably a better policy to do that if anyone agrees or disagrees.
And with that
Go
as
ahead.
well, Madam Chair, possibly in keeping with what Councilor Foster has says, possibly you could put this, go ahead and say for the CPI at that point, and moving forward with the.
And that's, I think if it's year to year, it's up to the city manager has that much discretion. But I do think that I would hate to put it out there with no CPI increases geared for those 5 years.
Counselor, it would not be too hard to add in something in the rent that says during the 5-year, during any renewal period, there will be CPI. We could add a paragraph to that effect in the rent section, if you would like.
I would be more comfortable with that just because I hate to say, I mean, the 2 years I'm kind of okay with just because we brought them up pretty quick. But then giving them 7 years where they don't have any increases would definitely put us behind the 8 ball again. I
Okay.
get, do we need to make a formal motion, or how would you like that, Carter?
I think we should.
Yeah, I think if you will make a motion to amend it to add, paragraph C that addresses CPI in the renewal periods, that would help us.
I think Counselor Perry wants, before
And
the
I'll
motion.
yield to you, be able to make the motion is fine, but maybe the cleanest way of saying that is during the renewal period, that each year will be 3% or the CPI annually, whichever is greater, may be the language to add.
Yeah, we can do that.
You got that?
Yes, I got that.
Okay, I'll make a motion so that in paragraph C to increase with, when the 5 additional one-year periods to add 3% or CPI, whichever is greater, to those leases.
Got it.
Okay, yes.
I'll second that. Are we amending the motion right now, or do you want to make the full motion for this contract as
Oh,
well?
yeah, we haven't made a motion, have we?
Correct, yeah.
Start.
Okay. Actually, so we could do it in just one motion.
Yeah.
Correct?
Mhm.
Okay. Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we send to full council on the consent agenda and let me make sure I get to the right, the lease to Aerocell for building number 58 with, for 5 years with a 3-year increase, or 1-year increases of $2.41 per square foot, and then second year, $3.41 per square foot, and the third year of $4.41 per square foot, with 2 more years on that lease, with ability for them to renew for 5 additional 1-year periods with CPI or 3% added to the additional 5 1-year periods.
Good.
Second.
Okay. Good. We have a motion and a second that includes a little bit of change. Any further discussion, questions, or comments? Hearing none then, all those in favor of sending this air sale lease on Hangar 58 to full council on the consent agenda with all the other terms and conditions of the lease, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Great. Our next lease is also with air sale.
And this is the split for 58 and 68 being, or 66 being together. So the action requested is the same, other than the square footage has changed, making the rent differences of $7,852.58 for year 1, $11,110.92 for year 2, and then year 3 at $14,369.25 as well. This lease also has been in holdover. Their current rent is $3,498.89
Monthly.
Monthly, right?
monthly.
Yes, thank you. Okay. I'm assuming maybe the same amendment to
Yes,
this as
I
well,
would say.
gentlemen? Okay.
Okay. Madam Chair, I make a motion that we send to the consent agenda of the December City Council meeting, the recommendation to approve the contract with Aircel for hangar number 66 and the related space consisting of 39,100 square feet, more or less, at the Air Center, in the terms as follows. Year 1, an annual amount of $94,231. Year 2, an annual of $133,331. And year 3 is the $172,431 yearly. Concerning Section C, the addition for the renewal periods for there to be a 3% or CPI annually, whichever is greater, subject to all other terms and conditions of the lease.
Second.
Good, we have a motion and a second, and forgive me, I just realized I forgot to say this. In both the abstract and I think in both of the agreements themselves, it talks about November 31st. And there's only 30 days.
I'm assuming that at one point we were moving forward with the dates, but I had to convert them back because of when legal was meeting and when it would go forward.
Okay, so it'll be correct.
Corrected.
Number of days in the correct month. Okay, great. Any further discussion, questions, or comments on the air sale lease? Hearing none, then, we have a motion to send to consent in December with all the other terms and conditions that we've discussed. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Jen Air of New Mexico.
Jen Air New Mexico is been a tenant since November of 2016 in this building number 732. Initially, the lease contained both the square footage of the land and the building together combined. For the purposes of pricing, this time I separated them, and I've upped the rent to reflect the land square footage at 10 cents a square foot, increasing the rent by $125 a month, and then adjusted the building from its current $733 to CPI, bringing them up to $770.46 with a combined monthly rent of $895.46 for a one-year lease starting on January 1 and going through December of next year.
Sorry, Parker, I should have asked you this. These could still start on December 1st with whatever, approval by the city manager, or
We could have an interim lease done, yeah, we could start with an interim lease, but the formal one approved by council would need to start, I guess, in January, but we
Okay.
could start with an interim
Okay.
before that.
good. Okay, just as long as we're covered for that month of December. Okay, good. So it will be January then. All right, any other questions or comments about the lease with Jen Air?
Madam Chair, if I could just ask, what was the annual for them before this revised lease?
I do not have that in front of me.
What was the monthly?
733.
And this is just for a one-year lease?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, can I have a motion on the renewal for Jen Air?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to send to the full council on the consent agenda to approve the Jen Air lease for building number 732 for consisting of 2,860 square feet with the adjacent 15,000 square feet, more or less, for the amount of, $10,745.52 annually, with 12 monthly installments of $895.46, with all other terms and conditions of the lease.
Second.
A motion and a second to renew the Jen Air lease. Is there any further discussion or comments? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of putting this on the consent agenda in December, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have
Yes.
to share that my son is here with me, I think, taking a civics lessons today because his brothers had to go to a basketball. He just looked at our agenda and he just said, "Do we have to do all of that?" And then I turned the paper all over and said all that too, so he's not happy.
Neither are the rest of us. Thank you. Okay, Kent Goodman.
Kent Goodman will be a renewal as well from a 1 year, then entering into another 1 year. This space is for building number 1164 for 2,000 square feet. This tenant has been moved several times. He has aviation storage in this facility. This building is one of our lower-end buildings. It has a roof that has exposure to the elements, so this would explain why his rent is a little less than the other rents that we've discussed. But we are just going to do a CPI index for him. His current rent is $112. We're moving it up to $117.72 because he's tarping his storage inside the building. It's basically just to keep it in one location for him.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments on Kent Goodman request for building 1164? Hearing none, then could I get a motion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I make a motion that we send to full council at the December meeting to be placed on consent. Recommendation to approve the lease with Kent Goodman for a portion of building number 1164 consisting of 2,000 square feet more or less located at the Roswell Air Center for a 1-year lease commencing December 1 in the amount of $1,412.64 annually, subject to all other terms and conditions of the lease.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions about this lease? Hearing none, then, all those in favor of sending this to the next council meeting on the consent agenda with a recommendation to approve, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. All right. Next one is a renewal lease also with Old Dog Brotherhood. Jenna.
This is for building number 734. The tenant has been with us since April of 2011 for the purpose of, it's a clubhouse for their membership, and then also they do some vehicle maintenance, motorcycle maintenance in there. The company is not really a company for profit. It's a good community relationship that we have with them, and they've asked us if we would work with them. They know that their rents will be increasing. Their fire insurance increased from $229.99 to $355.51 this year. And so they asked if we would carry them at just a traditional CPI increase to get them up to speed with where they should be for the next year. That will bring them in at $277.70 monthly and annual rent of $3,332.40. They're currently paying $258 a month.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Comments? Motion, please.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to send to consent, recommending approval of the lease for building number 734 to Old Dog Brotherhood, consisting of 2,484 square feet for the rent amount of $277.76 monthly, with all other terms and conditions of the lease.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on Old Dog Brotherhood's renewal. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, then, all those in favor of sending to council on the consent, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next one is renewal for Tom Wadsworth.
Tom Wadsworth is a general aviation pilot that is housed in the T hangar, building number 119, and he's currently occupying space 3 and 4. Space 3 is 1,175 square feet, and space 4 is 1,002 square feet. Standard renewal rate for him, we're going to go ahead and bring him up to CPI as well, and we'll give you the rates separately because I lumped them together here. For the new year, $205.48 a month. For space 3 and $202.65 a month for space 4. That will total the rent amount for $418.13 monthly, with an annual rent of $5,017.56.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments, motions?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we send to full council at the December meeting, consider on the consent agenda, our recommendation to approve the lease with Tom Wadsworth for T hangar building number 119, spaces 3 and 4, consisting of 1,175 square foot and 1,002 square feet, more or less for the two, located at the Roswell Air Center for the term of 1 year, in the amount of $5,017.56 collectively, annually, with subject to all the terms and conditions of the lease.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to renew Tom Wadsworth's lease. Any further discussion, comments, questions? Hearing none then, all those in favor of sending that to consent, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Our last one. Carlton Walker's renewal.
Again, this is a standard renewal for general aviation T-hangar space, building number 119 in Space 1, consisting of 1,175 square feet. The tenant has been with us since November of 1988. We're going to do a current CPI increase for him at $215.48 monthly. Currently, he's paying $205 a month, with an annual $2,585.76 for 1 year.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on the renewal for Carlton Walker?
Just on this abstract, it looks like there's a cut and paste error, because it lists two different, this is 1,175 and 1,002, which is exactly the same as Wadsworth.
Oh,
And this
okay.
is
You
just
know,
one
I
space.
questioned that too. I didn't realize,
Okay.
I forgot. So I think on the abstract, the question is the end,
Thank-
1,002.
Correct.
This is just one space, correct?
Yes.
Thank you, thank you.
All right. Madam
Okay.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion, are we ready for this?
Yes.
Okay. To send to the consent agenda, the lease with Tom Wadsworth for T-hangar building number 119, space 1, or no, oh, sorry, Carl, reverse, sorry. I'd like to make a motion for the lease to send to the full council for Carlton Walker on the T-hangar building number 119, space 1, consisting of 1,175 square feet, for the annual amount of $2,585.76, with all other terms and conditions of the lease.
Okay.
On consent agenda, correct? Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on Carlton Walker's renewal of T-hangar number 119. Any further discussion, comments, questions? All those in favor of sending that to the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign? Okay. It will go to consent, as will these others. Thank you very much. That's the leases at the Roswell Air Center, except we have a new lease. Is that yours too, Jenna?
It's mine and Steve. I don't know if he made it over, but I'll
You didn't want
present.
to, huh? Go ahead. This is a new lease, so yes, go ahead.
This is for the cafe area that was the existing flight lounge. This is a company that currently is the same vendor that's in the college and also our corrections facility here. They're planning on taking it over. They're in an interim lease right now and getting the building cleaned and ready to go for them to effectively take this lease. This will be a two-part lease. This lease only encompasses food and micro market. It does not include our liquor. So liquor license lease will bring forward in the future, but they're not taking that over yet. We are at a point of renewal for that liquor license, and so we decided we would make that a separate lease altogether. And it looks like Steve decided to go ahead and go in with commissions in the sum of 4% of net sales each month of the lease for the first year, year 2, 6%, year 3, 8%, and 4 to 7 at 10%. And net sales shall be defined as gross sales minus applicable sales tax. We will require them to give us an operating expense report every month to determine the commissions, and I'll do an annual audit as well once that is in play. This term is for December 1, 2021 through November 22, and then this lease shall renew for 7 additional one-year periods. They are going to maintain the name Flight Lounge as well, since that is the license, the liquor license name. So it is our name, so we're going to keep it. And then they will eventually have a Phase 3 as well, which will be an additional micro market on the non-secured side.
Okay, interesting. Any questions or comments before we have a motion? I'm again questioning the years 4 through, or not, the 7 additional 1 year. Is the city comfortable with that each year? Parker, I guess that's for you.
Yeah, the 1 year periods shall renew unless either party provides 60 days notice of non-renewal. So in the event that we did get to a point where we wanted to change course, we do have an annual out. We just have to remember 60 days before the anniversary to exercise that. And between Jenna and our new contracts administrator, I'm confident we can hit that deadline.
Okay. So basically, it has the potential of being for 8 years.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion? Whose turn is it? I'm sorry.
Sure. You want to take it or I'll take it. But we have, so it's all based on net sales, correct?
That's correct.
All right. I'm comfortable with that. I just wanted to make sure.
There is the slide does have a scope of work as well, and it kind of defines the tenant scope of work. It's also attached to the lease.
Yes. And it's in our packet, thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions?
How about, have we talked to them about hours of operations? Do we know, I mean, I know we don't want to define hours of operations for them, but we do want them to, we want, yeah, Steve, if you, Steve's wanting to stand up. He's leaning forward. If we've talked to them about, you know, their willingness to be there when our flights are leaving.
Yeah, I spoke to him too.
Or you did too, Jana. You can, yeah. I'd much rather hear from you, Jana, than Steve, anyway.
I
Oh,
did
Steve
actually
heard that.
meet with them yesterday, and we did a walkthrough of the restaurant, and they're looking to have the hours coincide with ours. The cafe and micro market options will probably be ideal for the evening flight that leaves late, but they're flexible with that, and their menu will reflect more of a moderate income on the cafe side and an elevated or escalated menu on the lounge side once they have their liquor going as well. So they'll be giving 2 options for our guests, and I believe the dinner option will be more on the flight lounge, or the lounge side versus the cafe.
Is this something we want on consent, or do we want it to bring it up?
Maybe. Because it's something new and
Yeah,
different. and
yeah.
questionable.
The only reason I say that is because I'm okay with the percentage and not having a set amount for a fee, because we actually want to encourage business here. And so, but I do think that we probably put it on the regular just so that if someone has a question.
And Counselor, that's why I did break it out from the other leases for that reason. I thought it kind of needed separate treatment.
Thank you.
All right.
Good.
All right, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to send to the full City Council recommending approval of the lease agreement with Summit Foods LLC for, for the flight lounge consisting of 1,685 square feet, more or less, for a 1 year commencing. Are we going to push this to January or December? I mean,
They're in the interim lease now, so it's effective to them at this point, either way.
so December 1st, 2021, ending November 30th, 2022. This lease shall renew for 7 additional 1 year periods unless either party provides a 60-day notice of non-renewal. Summit Foods is a new tenant, The sum commissions for the first year will be 4% of the net sales each month of the lease for the first year. Year 2, 6% of the net sales. Year 3, 8% of the net sales. And years 4 through to 7, it'll be 10% of net sales. And net sales being defined as gross sales minus applicable sales tax.
Good,
With all, I recommend approval with all other terms and conditions of the lease.
thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to send this to full council with our recommendation on the regular December council meeting, with all the terms and conditions listed. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, next we have our ordinance on the Clean Air Act. This is currently the Indoor Air Act of Roswell, or Smoke-Free Air Act, I guess. And due to the inclusion of cannabis, Mr. Mavers has presented some changes to it. So, please, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much, Madam Chair and committee members. This evening, we're working once again on the ordinance that will create our version of the Clean Air Act. We ask that you consider recommending to the full City Council to advertise to hold a public hearing to consider the adoption of our proposed ordinance, which will repeal Chapter 16, which is the Smoke-Free Air Act from the Municipal Code, and replace it with Chapter 14, Article 5, entitled the Clean Air Act. As we're all aware, the HB2, the Cannabis Regulation Act, made it legal to possess and use marijuana in various forms. It established a regulatory framework for the possession, cultivation, manufacture, and sales. The Cannabis Regulation Act also provides that local jurisdictions may adopt time, place, and manner rules that are reasonably appropriate to protect public health, safety, and welfare. And that's where the updates to this particular ordinance come in. Okay. The City Council has previously determined that the smoking of tobacco and other plants, including cannabis, is a health hazard. The Council also determined that the right to breathe clean and unpolluted air is in fact a human right, and the City Council determination was all made back pursuant to the Smoke-Free Air Act of 2004. Okay. The City of Roswell believes that clean and unpolluted air is a human right, and secondhand smoke should not simply be considered a nuisance. The adoption of the State of New Mexico Cannabis Regulation Act creates an additional urgency for this ordinance update. As we're all aware, there will be permits being issued by the state effective January 1, 2022, which is getting closer every single day. City of Roswell believes that additional protections against secondhand smoke to protect public health, safety, and welfare is necessary. Okay. So if you want to take a look at the entire ordinance, you'll see that we've made some changes to the previous ordinance. Section 1441, the findings, some additional definitions in 1442, updates to the prohibition of smoking in 1443, 1444 added some unregulated smoking areas and redefined those terms. The Section 1445, declaration as a non-smoking establishment, provides additional protections for those businesses that want to declare themselves as non-smoking establishments. 1445 also includes enforcement actions should it become necessary to enforce the ordinance. 46, violations and penalties, and then Section 1447, updating the effective date. Okay. The city attorney has reviewed the proposal multiple times. Thank you, Parker, and has recommended that the legal committee consider recommending to advertise to hold a public hearing and to consider the adoption of proposed ordinance 21XX, repealing Chapter 16, the Smoke-Free Air Act, from the Roswell Municipal Code and replacing it with Chapter 14, Article 5, the City of Roswell Clean Air Act.
Thank you very much.
And councilors, just to explain what's in your packet, per the discussion we had last time, I did also include a copy of the D. Johnson Clean Indoor Air Act, which is the state statute, and also the alternative proposal, which would be not to move it to Chapter 14 and have a lot of rewrites to it, but rather just to basically include a definition of secondhand smoke that includes cannabis and e-cigarettes. So kind of a minimalist approach, which was also requested. So that's all in your packet, so you can kind of have multiple options to consider.
Okay, so if I understand it right, that's why there are two here.
Yes.
So then I'm curious, the ordinance, proposed ordinance that follows the abstract, which in my packet is on page 29, does not show me changes. Is this all new? I mean, it doesn't show me where our current, where it folds into our current ordinance, or does it? And I don't see it. Or is it a total rewrite of our ordinance? Do you
Well,
understand what I'm saying?
Yes, but, I mean, if we're, the first one is the, putting it in chapter 14, creating its own.
Right.
So then it is a total rewrite, even if some of it is duplicate from what we've had in 16.
And
Correct?
that is correct, Counselor. The first set of ordinance beginning on page 29, that is all new. That is the creation of Chapter 14, Article 5. So you won't find any underlines or overstrikes or anything
Okay,
in that.
that's why.
Because this is a
Okay.
brand-new ordinance. What begins on page 38 is a revision to existing Section 1619 of the Roswell City Code. In that, you will find the various underlines and strikeouts. Those are the things that have to be added or subtracted in order to ensure that we covered all the bases, if you chose not to move the ordinance from Chapter 16 to Chapter 14.
Okay. Appreciate that explanation, sorry. So, let's see if there are any questions first on what we have before us, gentlemen.
I
Anything?
do have one, and I'm assuming, and I guess I shouldn't do that, going back to the other Clean Air Act. I'm on page 40, smoking means, and it's, I guess, under 1 and the 2I, the strikeout is other tobacco product in any manner or in any form. We changed that to any other lighted or heated tobacco or plant product intended for inhalation, including cannabis, whether natural or synthetic. My question there is, how does that hit incense? If someone's burning incense, is that, would that, I mean, I understand what we're going for, but I think incense falls under that too now, and you inhale incense when you walk in, so. Yes.
Me turn on my microphone to begin with. Could you do me a favor and speak a little more right directly into the microphone, and can you give me the particular line and section you're looking at?
On page 40, under smoking means 1, the 2I, and it says any other lighted or heated tobacco or plant product intended for inhalation, including cannabis, whether natural or synthetic. When you hit incense, or now it says heated, so now you're talking about all those senses and all those other things.
Counselor, I don't disagree, but I will draw your attention to page 47, which is the D. Johnson Clean Indoor Air Act, section N at the bottom of the page.
Smoking means inhaling. Yeah, so that, it's
So
there, it's in theirs too, so.
So I take it up, if you don't like the definition, take it up with your state legislator. I didn't write that.
Right. And that's where I just want to get to that point where, you know,
I don't think it would be hard if that's, and I think that definition is in both Kevin's version and the other one, because it is the state law version. You could add excluding candles and incense or something like that, you know? Yeah.
I hate
I
hate
occasionally
the
light a candle in
technicalities.
my office. Am I going to have to apply for a variance?
Yeah, that's what
You're
I'm,
gonna,
I am,
you're gonna have to
okay.
get a permit from the planning and zoning department.
yeah, that,
Whoever
and
they
that's.
are.
It depends
I-
on what's in that candle.
Yeah, exactly. But I understand that, but that's where I see that, and I hate that my mind works that way, but I try to find those ones exception that's going to get us in trouble.
No, you know, I actually had a similar thought when I read it at the time. I thought that seems overbroad,
Yeah.
but I didn't, you know, I thought if it was good enough for the state legislature, I suppose it would probably work for us too.
Except I know some of them, and I don't know.
Well,
But, because they just practice law. Well, sorry. I don't know.
I think that if there was an issue, it'd go up to the state. I think that we would be covered by trying to apply ourselves to state statute or state law, and so I think that any attorney would end up fighting with the AG on this one, I think.
Well, and I don't see us enforcing incense
Yeah.
unless there's something put in that incense.
yeah, I think that would probably be considered an unreasonable interpretation given the intent.
All right. So, I yield.
Okay. So, Parker, I don't know if I'm barking up the wrong tree. Have there been any changes to the state D. Johnson Clean Indoor Act? And I guess I could tell by looking at this, since we did our original ordinance.
You'll
It
see
looks like there has been.
mainly it's what you'll see underlined in the second ordinance. So they added something about e-cigarettes, right? And so they added including e-cigarettes to retail tobacco store, and they included a definition of e-cigarettes, which you'll see underlined. They also, which we have not done, they added some definitions of a cigar bar. So you can we don't have it in our ordinance, but under the D. Johnson in Clean Indoor
did
Air
it.
Act, or whatever it's called,
Yeah.
you can have a cigar bar and get permitted for that. We don't have that. And then I think they've struck a couple of definitions that we still have, like they don't still have a definition of restaurant, which we still have in ours. So it's a few things like that. And then this definition of secondhand smoke is new, and then adding smoking includes the language we were just talking about, any other
Right.
lighted or heated tobacco or plant product or any use of an e-cigarette that creates an aerosol or vapor. All of that is new. In fact, that stuff I think came in with some of that came in recently when they added e-cigarettes, and then they added the additional language about cannabis when they passed the Cannabis Regulation Act earlier this year.
Okay, so I guess my question would be, would it behoove us to adopt their changes and then see where we are? Or is that what's been done?
I didn't add the stuff about cigar bars because there's been no request for that, so I didn't feel that anybody was asking for it, so I didn't put it in there. But as far as the changes reflecting cannabis and e-cigarettes, the second ordinance exactly matches what the state
What the
law
state
has
had-
done.
Okay, that's what I thought. All right, I appreciate that. So, I thought we permitted cigar bars or maybe that's not what they are.
We have, and this is in both versions,
Okay.
the one that Kevin developed and in the existing one, you can get a permit for, like a private club can do like a one-time event, and
that's right.
you can do smoking at that. And of course, the Cannabis Regulation Act has cannabis consumption areas. So that's all governed not by this, although the requirements of secondhand smoke would still apply, but that's all governed under the Cannabis Regulation Act and our Chapter 27. But those all cross-reference each other. I mean, you'll see the same thing in the state law. The Cannabis Regulation Act will say, follow the D. Johnson Clean Indoor Air Act, and the D. Johnson Clean Indoor Air Act now cross-references the Cannabis Regulation Act saying, can't, and all of that.
Okay, so I guess what I'm trying to do is determine where we've got the least duplication of, I guess, the cannabis ordinance that we're already working on and presenting again tonight. Because I just see some bad things happening if we have too much duplication and overlapping without just referring. Because again, we remembered to change one and not the other if we were to amend any of this. So, anybody else's comments? And either one of you?
I had a question or two, but I wanted to,
Go ahead,
before I got into that, I
Go
wanted
ahead.
to see which one we were more
Well,
serious
I'm
of
not
looking
sure.
at.
I'm not sure, so for me
Well,
at least.
mine
Go
is a
ahead.
simple, on the first one, Kevin, if you can just help me, and this is very insignificant, I know it is, but I'm just for my own education, on page 35 and B, sign posting requirements. I know we're living in a day with more and more of the e-cigarettes type things, and people assuming that it's not the same thing as smoke, therefore they can do whatever. And it says in the number 1, no smoking signs or the international no smoking symbol consisting of a representation of a burning cigarette enclosed in a red circle with a red bar across it shall be clearly, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Is there an e-cigarette symbol that has become universal yet out there, or do the words need to be added to that to ensure?
I am not aware of any at this point. I mean, the types and models, a cigarette itself is pretty universally recognized, but when you get beyond cigarettes and into pipes of the various different types and vaping devices of the various different types, there's no style that
I think
particularly
that-
shows up.
At least in my generation and below, people understand and recognize that the burning cigarette, it represents cigars and pipes and anything that has a lit something within it, but for
Right.
some reason, a lot of the younger generation looks at I've seen people in Walmart take a puff on an e-cigarette, or an whatever they call the things. And I heard a lady getting on to some young boys about it, and they said it's not smoking. It's not smoking, so I just did not know if there was something.
Unfortunately, there are case studies, and I've seen the same people doing the same things. And there are case studies out there right now that show that some of the vaping products and the delivery methods of vaping products are actually far worse
Yes.
for you than traditional cigarette smoking. That's why many of them were recalled, was it last year or the year before, taken off the market completely, especially those that were targeting children and teenagers with the various
Flavoring and everything,
Yep.
and we're seeing popcorn lung and different things coming up with some of this. Okay, I just wondered if there was not something for that. Okay, Madam Chair.
Again, just for discussion, on page 33, which I thought we talked about at our last legal committee, down on line 42, 4B, the vehicle used for business purposes is privately owned by the business owner. Didn't we do something to that? I have it scratched, but I'm not sure.
I think we just struck that. Yes.
That's,
Because it was covered by the bit above it that just says smoking is permitted in an enclosed office or room within a place of employment or in a private vehicle used in employment. You can just leave it.
And that is correct. We did strike that line. It should have been
Okay,
stricken and
so-
renumbered, yes.
line, I guess it's 42, I believe, it's 4B
Should be struck.
is struck, and then, of course, relettered C to B, D to C, et cetera. Okay. Okay, so, I guess we ought to talk about the difference and the desires between the two different, ordinances that have been brought before us. The first one is moving this to, chapter 14 and adding, I guess, all, or making it all of what we see in front of us, begin on page 29. Please stop me if I'm wrong, somebody. And then the second choice, I guess, if you want to put it that way, would start on page 38, which is leaving this in nuisance, section, or, chapter 16, and, adding just the things that we see here. Because again, forgive me, Parker, cannabis is already in here? Or no?
In the amendments that are in the second version,
Yes.
yes, you'll see, I can point them out to you, hold on. You'll
I
find.
see e-cigarette added.
E-cigarette is added, then what you'll see is the definition, we mentioned the definition of secondhand smoke, which includes, this is on page 40. If you'll go to line 16, secondhand smoke means.
Yes.
Right, and then you'll see two little I, any other lighted or heated tobacco or plant product
Right.
intended for
We're talking-
inhalation, including cannabis, whether natural or synthetic.
Right.
And then the same thing, smoking means below that, and including cannabis. And then what you'll find is, so what you'll see is, for example, on page 41, at line 34, where it used to say tobacco,
Right.
it's struck, and now it says secondhand smoke, which the definition of secondhand smoke includes cannabis.
Right.
And then you'll see in the exceptions, which begin on 41F, right, where smoking is not regulated, 1, 2, and then keep going down to 7 on the next page, and
Yes.
indoor or outdoor cannabis consumption area pursuant to the cannabis
Oh,
regulations.
good. Okay,
Right.
yes.
So that's how the D. Johnson Indoor Air Act was updated to include cannabis, and so this version just does the same thing that the state law did.
Okay. So,
Counselor Stubbs, one final thing for consideration.
Yes, please.
And I did not make it clear, and I apologize for not making it clear, but the first version,
yes, sir.
is a result of many, many, many hours of working very closely with a number of our public health organizations. The first version was not just something that staff put together. We consulted with a number of public health organizations before turning this out. It was specifically directed to make sure that we were providing the optimum level of protection for the residents of the city, and especially our working residents that it may be sharing space with people who are smokers. So it was not just an arbitrary decision to move
No, I
things
know.
around and to add what we added. It does represent not only the changes from the Cannabis Act, but also many hours of work along with La Casa Public Health. They're the ones that are providing all the billboards and all the other information around town on the health risks associated with cannabis.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. So I guess the real question before us is, which one do we proceed with? Or is, I mean,
Earlier, I kind of did oppose changing it just for changing. But I do see the need and seeing it's more succinct if it has its own chapter. And it's a lot easier probably for, someone to find it than if it's hidden in our nuisance laws. So, I mean, having its own area.
well, there are other things in chapter 14. Parker, refresh my memory.
Commission on Aging and ADA and accessibility are in there, and I think something else too, something about affordable housing. There's a section on
that's-
affordable
yes.
housing. So those are the other things that are currently in Chapter 14.
And, see, that doesn't feel the place for it to be in my mind either, as opposed to nuisance, but go
Okay,
ahead.
Counselor Foster, if I could interrupt just for a moment. So what is the difference between a section and an article?
So there's 3 levels within the way our city code is built. So you'll have a chapter, which will basically cover an entire subject matter, like Chapter 27 is all cannabis, right? Or, Chapter, I think, 16 is all nuisances. Then below that, you'll have articles, which then will have a series of sections about that are related to each other. Like you'll have, like in our cannabis ordinance, you have personal possession, and then and within that, you'll have a bunch of sections that are all about personal possession. Section 27 dash whatever, and then section, like that. So
And-
the highest level is chapter, then article, then section.
Okay. And and I thought that was correct. I just wanted to bring that out just for clarification. I do think that, especially with cannabis, that this arises to probably a position of, I do agree with Counselor Foster, the further inlaying you put this, the less opportunity there is for recognition of it. Though if it's there, it's there. Even if it's just a paragraph in a section, it is still there. But I recognize our staff's desire as well to make sure that this is very easy to find or more accessible. So I do believe that, Counselor Foster, that I would agree with you that an article versus a section does have that prominence. But Madam Chair, you've brought up concerns about the chapter. So I don't know.
It's an article either way, isn't it, or no?
Okay, so right now, let me look here. Right now, our
Section
the smoking, the 2004 Smoking Act is one section. And so all of that is, everything in there are all subsections of section 16-9,
9.
right? And
Okay.
what,
The proposal is making it Article 5.
right,
but
so
of
it would then
another
be
chapter.
Article 5 and have a bunch of sections, which, that does create, so you can have, each section can be named, and then you have so it gives you a little more flexibility as you're drafting it when you have a whole article to work with instead of trying to put everything into a section.
Thank you.
And the Committee on Aging, too, is one of those that, I'm not sure. But the ADA portion of it, to me, would fit if the company was looking at building codes or starting a business, things, their ADA portion and then the smoking portion comes, to a certain degree.
I'm sorry, not to interrupt you, but
problem.
if I'm not mistaken, it's the Commission for ADA that you're
Yeah.
referring to, right?
It
It's
does not have specifics on regulations related to Americans with Disabilities Act. It just creates the commission
the
on
commission
ADA.
is what's in that,
Oh, okay.
that chapter, yeah. 2 commissions and something on
Affordable housing. Yeah.
Counselor Stubbs, something else you may want to take into account as well in your deliberations. Going back all the way back to 1972 in the Federal Clean Air and Clean Water Acts, those were at that time, even the federal government declared clean air a human right. The primary reason for moving it from Chapter 16, which is our nuisance section. Okay, clean air is not a nuisance, it's a human right. Chapter 14 is human resources and human rights. There's a disconnect between calling clean air a nuisance. In fact, I think it's completely incorrect to call clean air a nuisance. Yes, tobacco smoke, secondhand smoke is a nuisance, but we're declaring that clean air is in fact a human right.
So let me clarify this. If we're saying if we put it into 14, chapter 14, it's its own article. If we put it in 16, it's not?
Well, no, right now it's not. It's one section, but you can make it an article in the nuisance
In
section if
16.
you wanted to. I mean, there's 2 separate questions. One is where does it go? You can go into chapter 14 or it can go into chapter 16. The other is how is the thing structured? Is it all put into one section or do you break it out? You could do I don't know how many articles there are in chapter 16.
There are a
but-
lot.
Yeah, but you could add a new article, you know, and have this similarly be a series of sections in chapter 16
Right.
nuisances. So,
Okay.
yeah, you could do it that way too.
All
They're
right, thank you.
Flexible.
Yes.
And forgive me for putting staff on surprise on this, but what article is it under? What is section 16-9? What article is that under?
Let me just give me one second.
Thank you. I'm sorry to do that to you.
No, that's fine.
And I would also like to know what are some other nuisances that are categorized throughout, and maybe Kevin, you can be answering that while we get an answer from Parker.
Currently, you have things like weeds, noise, all the things that code enforcement goes after, dilapidated structures, things like that.
So right now, it is in Article 1, which is just in general. And so in there, you've got prohibited generally, public nuisances, storage of junk, overgrown property, offensive matter, unsanitary and hazardous premises, abandonment of dangerous containers, and Smoke-Free Air Act, noise, dwellings unfit for human habitation. And then the other articles that are in here, there's Article 2 is litter, Article 3 is storage or abandoned, wrecked, dismantled, or inoperative motor vehicles, and Article 5 is the chronic nuisance ordinance.
Thank you.
Just to say, I'm not falling on a sword for where it's placed. I'm not.
And Madam Chair, I will just say, I'm starting to follow the thought of our, I don't know what the new name is, it's not city planner anymore, it's
Community development.
Community Development Department. I'm starting to better understand the thought process behind that, seeing that it's not, we're not putting this on the same level as weeds and things like that. I think I'm starting to understand that better.
My next question is, where it's placed, does it fall under different enforcement?
No, well, it's right now because it falls under the nuisance. It's generally that's code enforcement. There's not really any particular department of the city that's got human rights as an enforcement area.
So that's what my next question is. Is there a way of pushing this into the criminal to where it's police force? I mean, our police force can enforce nuisance too, but if it was in a criminal area, I mean, to the point where, I mean, I know if someone's walking down the street or smoking a cigarette, we can issue a citation.
Yeah,
But
go ahead.
But is there a better portion for it for our police force, or if we're looking at the enforcement side of it, where is there a better place?
Well, let's see. I mean, we do have a chapter, let's see, called Criminal Offenses. That's chapter 10. I don't know whether we want to put smoking up there with, battery and, things like that. As it is, and I agree with you, the police tend to focus on those things which are criminal offenses, but that's just because that's their
job.
Their job, and so it is more of a code enforcement type of issue. So if you moved it into human rights, that wouldn't take it out of the jurisdiction of human rights at all. It's just that's just like the police normally look at criminal offenses that's like their home. Code enforcement goes to nuisances, that's their home.
Counselor Foster, if I could help just a little bit, it definitely falls into the area of code enforcement as opposed to criminal enforcement. If there is a facility that's either offering or has the ability to allow for smoking or non-smoking, either way, they're going to require a conditional use permit, a special use permit, something that would come through us to begin with. We were the department that would have to issue the permit that would allow them the smoking. If they do not have a permit, it is a violation of our zoning and of our municipal code, as well as a violation of our zoning code. And so the implementation of any fines or anything else like that would fall into our jurisdiction.
I laugh, and I'm sorry because I know of one, and I'm not sure if they're currently the way they do it, but I know of one establishment in town that if the police are coming, it's quick, put out the cigarettes. Come on, guys, open the doors, come on. But I don't know if they do that still currently, but I was there at one time when that happened. So that's, I mean, I do know our police enforce those things too. So, but that's where, if we're trying to find a home for it, that's, you know, I'm not, I shouldn't say, I'm comfortable with it being moved to 14, but.
Okay, sounds like we've all agreed. 14 it is.
All right.
Okay? Great.
Cool.
That's monumental, apparently. Okay. All right, so now we're back to the actual language within what the ordinance that we're looking at. So, so if we go with placing it in 14, does that mean we throw out all of the other language in the update of the Clean Air Act? What are your desires there?
Madam Chair, I'm here to listen to the wisdom of the others to see what's best. I would say, and Mr. Mavers, and I apologize, you and I have not got to have this conversation before now, but I've been out of town and had very poor cell phone reception. If we do indeed choose to adopt the one where the starts on page 29, I'd like to discuss, because I do believe that the whereases are very critical, because that's what you're stapling on. Why are we doing this? You know, what is the purpose of it? I guess I'm questioning or having reservation about so much referral to cannabis in it, because this is so much more than just cannabis. And I know that there's other whereases in here, but I don't know if there's a way to codify some of that to where we're really dealing with the clean air, the secondhand smoke, all put together, and that there's no question or concern that we're just concerned over the cannabis portion. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Okay.
Good catch. Thank you. All right, so like I say, we've got some really important other stuff we need to get through tonight too, and people are waiting to come in for a council meeting. So, are we ready to make a decision on this? Or do we need some more time or more thought, or, gentlemen, tell me what we need to do.
I think we've moved forward, and I think at least we know that we're wanting to put it in a different chapter, but I do, as I'm reading the whereases, there's some several things that, I mean, the first whereas is a positive danger to health and health hazard. What's a positive danger? I mean,
There we go. I'm sorry, a positive danger. In other words, has been determined, in fact, that it is a danger
Right.
to public health.
but
You could take the word positive out of there.
Just say
It's just reaffirming that, in fact, it's been declared a danger. It's
And
an
so-
adjective that could be removed, most likely.
right, and so that's where I'm thinking there's some wording that we probably need to revise and go through. But I think we're moving forward on this. But I don't think I'm not sure if we're ready for anything tonight, especially since we have 45 minutes till we're starting something that'll last longer than that. I would like to probably go ahead and postpone this.
Not take any action on it? Is that what we mean?
We moved forward. I think we have, to a certain degree, taken some action, but I think we moved forward.
We've had a consensus, yeah.
A consensus. Okay, so,
Okay, so we'll give it serious consideration next month. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Let's move on to consideration for acceptance of the Nmfa Water Loan Grant Agreement, which starts on page 57 of our packet. Juan?
Yes.
You're here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair and councilors. So the next two items are related to a New Mexico water loan grant application the city submitted. Council approved a prior resolution authorizing the submission of the application. So what we have before you is the actual agreement for consideration. The agreement is for a $750,000 grant loan combination, with 40% of it being in the amount of $300,000 is the loan portion, and $450,000, 60% of it being the grant. So the terms of the grant, this is for a 0% interest, but there is an administrative fee of 0.25%. And what the bond council is asking is for consideration of this agreement. It is the standard, has been submitted to legal for review. The next agenda item, again, is related to this, which is the actual resolution. If approved, it will go, we're hoping that the closing for all of the loan documents will be Friday, January 14th of 2022. And with that, Madam Chair and councilors, I will stand for any questions.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments for Mr. Fuentes? This obviously is their boilerplate.
That
Not
is
ours.
correct, yes.
Okay. Because it's, 40 pages or something like that?
That is correct. It is the standard agreement.
Their standard. Okay. Any questions or concerns? Can I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we send to full council the recommendation for the, to accept the Nmfa water loan grant agreement to construct new water lines in the Edgewood area as proposed.
Second?
Second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or concerns for Mr. Fuentes?
My question was, you said January 14th is the January 14th meeting, or what was the January 14th?
No, so the, we have a calendar, Madam Chair, Councilor Foster, that we are following. So with the consideration of the committee tonight, it will go to council for consideration and approval on December 9th. And then other series of actions will occur between us and the firm that's putting all these documents. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that everything gets closed out on January 22nd, all of the formal formalities of signing the document and all of that. Just wanted to just share additional information.
Well, I just,
Thank you.
for some reason, I was thinking that it might be pressed for us to get it all finished by then, but I remember this is the November, we have a December
Right.
meeting, so
Right, we have
we're
this.
good.
Okay.
All right.
Any other questions or comments? Can I have a motion then, please?
Or we already have the
Oh, we have a motion and a second.
Yeah.
So now, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion of sending this to council with our recommendation to approve, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. That'll be on the December council agenda. Flipping now to page 97. Mr. Fuentes?
Okay, Madam Chair and councilors, again, this is the resolution authorizing the execution and delivery of the loan agreement we just discussed. And again, this is just part of their standard boilerplate documentation that they require all entities to adopt when accepting a loan grant award. And with that, Madam Chair, councilors, I will stand for any questions.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
On this one, I see that it has, is this one requiring the signature of the mayor and the councilors as well?
That is correct. Under the, if you look back, well, it does require the mayor's signature on page 112. We will document the voting once it is approved on December 9th. If you look on page 111, all it states there is just for us to document who voted aye, nay, and who were absent.
Okay.
And being that it is only a resolution, the mayor's signature and city clerk is required.
All right.
All right. Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to send to
Please.
full council for the December 9th council meeting to consider approval of Resolution 2178, authorizing the execution of delivery of the New Mexico other NMFA water loan agreement, or grant agreement.
Do I have a
Second.
Okay. Excuse me. Any questions or comments? Concerns? Okay, hearing none, can we have a motion?
Already had it.
Do we have a motion?
And
I'm
a
sorry.
second.
I'm thinking too far ahead.
You're ready to
All
get
right.
out of here.
I mean, totally out of all those in favor then of the motion of sending this to full council with our recommendation to approve, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. It'll be on the December agenda. Thank you.
Cheers getting to you.
I guess that's probably right. One more item that I don't believe really needs a vote, but Mr. Parker, thank you for bringing this calendar to us early.
Yes, well, and you should really thank Amalia because she made it.
Oh, thank you, Amalia.
Whenever you see good work, just assume that Amalia did it. So, yes, the city clerk does ask that all of the committees annually determine what the next year's schedule is going to look like. The calendar shows you that if we continue to meet on the fourth Thursday of every month, with the exception that in, just like this year in November, that would hit Thanksgiving. So we've proposed that we put it a week back on the 17th of November, 2022. But all the others would just be the fourth Thursday of the month, excuse me.
So we don't have to move December's this year. We usually have to move December's
Right,
as well.
it'll fall on the 22nd.
Great,
Yeah.
okay. So, any questions or comments, desires to change our meeting date from the fourth Thursday? So it would just be that one in November as we've done this year?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay, so I think we're all good with it by consensus. Thank you very much. Appreciate the department reports. As always, any questions about that? Okay, hearing none, legal committee is adjourned at whatever time it is, 5:23. Thank you all. I really should too.
I was gonna run across the street, but I'm not sure they want. You want me to run? Or do you have your car here? Or I know. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go tomorrow. Let's go.